everyone. I think we'll just proceed to start. It's 7:34 on the dots. How are we doing today? How's our weekend been? Um, it's good to be here again on another weekend review session. So we'll be reading the book by Femi Otedola, Making It Big. Yeah, currently today is the final lesson of the second section, on section two of the book. Last week we looked at lesson eight, where we also learned the importance of having mentors that will help us navigate um, whatever it is that we want to embark on, whether it's in terms of our career or business and all of that. We learned the importance of having models and mentors in our lives. So today we'll be looking at lesson nine, which is the lesson for section two of the book. Section two that we've been reviewing for the past couple of weeks on growth and expansion. So we're looking at lesson nine, which is make your life simple. Um, it's a very short chapter and also um, very important lessons to learn also in it. And today we have someone that will be helping us to unpack this particular lesson. Um, and the person of Hamzat will be helping Hamzat Shiraduddin will be helping us to review this lesson of the book. After which we'll just leave the floor open for people to, contribute to what all that he would say. Hamza, just to confirm that you can hear me. Hi,
Yes, I can hear
Hamza.
you clearly, Ufoma.
Okay, so I'll just be hand over the virtual
Yeah, can
mic
you hear
to
me?
you. Yes, I can hear you clearly. So I'll just hand over the virtual mic to you to take us through this interesting lesson. Make it simple. Okay, over to make your life simple. Over to you, please. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you very much, Ufoma. Good evening, everyone, and I welcome every one of us to today's review session. And it's a pleasure to serve as the reviewer as we discuss the ninth lesson of Making It Big by Femi Otedola. And the title of this is Make Your Life Simple. Make Your Life Simple. And for me, I see this part or this lesson as the greatest lesson we can take from this book, especially in this chapter of the book, meaning the second part of the book where it talks about growth, where it talks about developing yourself and expanding yourself. Because it's a part that a lot of people do not pay attention to, especially in a world that constantly glorifies excesses, that constantly glorifies noise, pressure, endless competitions, and all of that. So in this lesson, Femi Otedola, he presented a different philosophy from what you would hear from an average person on the street. He reflected on how simplifying his life, how simplifying your life would make you to be more effective, how simplifying your life would grant you more clarity. And it's more like, this is leading to this. Simplifying your life, okay, is going to give you more clarity, and more clarity would give you effectiveness in whatever you are doing. So I'll quickly take off, from the beginning of it, where he started to talk about the importance of painting a vision. And from that part, you see where the father, while he was still very young, while the father was always telling him to cleanse off his mind and for him to, show up very, very, very nice. So and that's painting a vision for every single one of us, whether in business or your professional life, you must have a vision. And it is said that if you do not have a goal, if you do not have a direction, if you do not have where you're going, you keep wandering around like a goat, like, you don't know where you're going. So he had a vision. He had that, idea that, oh, this is where I want to be. This is who I want to become at the end of the day. He had it in his head. Then, secondly, the part of the dressing also drew my attention, and I noted that your dress, okay, determines how you would be addressed, right? The way you want to be addressed is the way you should dress. A lot of people today, in the real sense, they just follow the vibe, they follow, the flow, how it happens because people are doing this, or because Burna Boy are dressed this way, or because Ashake are dressed this way. They also just want to follow through, or because this influencer had, done his hair this way, or because this person is living his life this way, they also want to follow through. So we have to be very, very careful, and that's one strong lesson I held from what Femi noted there, that you need to be intentional about how you dress, you need to be intentional about how you show up, and you'll see him, right? He decided to go off from the way everyone does. All of his friends, they would come up with the shouty dress, they want to show that, oh, they are the big boys in the street and all of that. But he changed everything, and it came out just simple. He comes out in a Nigerian attire, the buba and shokoto. One, you would expect that, oh, it's for the old people, right? So but it came up that way, and it was consistent with it. And I think that aspect of intentionality and consistency is very, very essential here. So you need to be intentional about how you show up. You need to be intentional about, how you bring yourself to the people, and you also need to be consistent. You should not be seen this way today and you are seen else how tomorrow. People would not take you serious. People would see that, oh, this person is not someone who is consistent. So consistency is also very, very important. Then another point I grabbed also, especially in that first page, was regarding mentorship. You could see how his grandfather was shaping his mind. His grandfather was always telling him what he should do. His grandfather was, directing him. And it's a popular statement that says that, mentorship is more like standing on the shoulder of a giant. You're standing on the shoulder of a giant, right? The giant is going to see probably maybe 10 feet, okay, above the ground, but you're standing on his shoulder. It means that you probably be seeing about 17 feet, or probably maybe something very, very above 10 feet. So standing on the shoulder of the giant is also very, very essential. You would see how the grandfather was shaping his mind and, making him to understand how he needs to show up. Then the next point I also held, from this part is being unique. Right, being unique. You need to be unique. You need not, and I mentioned that, right? So a lot of time, a lot of people take simplicity or being unique, just living your life in the way that it resonates with you, they take it as weakness. When the real sense, simplicity is not weakness, or it's not a lack of ambition. Okay, it's a strategy for focus, right? Through it, you get focus, you get discipline, and you get effectiveness from it. So what works for you is what works for you, as long as you're going to get the result at the end of the day. So you need to be simple, be unique in your approach. Most times when you are unique, you show up very, very nice. You observe something, you observe that you are easily noticeable. People would see that, oh, this person amongst the crowd. So you need to live your life so simple, and also be unique, and try as much as possible to present yourself in the best way you can. Then I would want to make a clarification here. And what's the clarification I'm trying to make? The clarification is living or dressing simple does not mean you should just show up anyhow. And this is one of the, things some people get wrong, and probably some of us even had some of those issues while we were growing up. When you're in school and you start to iron your dress, and your teacher will be like, no, why should you be ironing your dress? The time you're supposed to be reading, you guys need to iron your dress, right? So but we need to understand that being simple does not mean looking so shabby. No. And you will see that from Otedola. He said his goal was that he wants to come out neat. He wants to ensure that he is clean at every point in time. And that's the goal. So you must also carry that. You being simple does not mean that you come out looking shabby. You want to come out strong. You want to come out obvious. You want to come out, visible, right? But you are also not doing excesses in it. Then the next one is you should be simple, right? Your life, the defining, or probably one thing that moves you should be that be simple. And I took this, and I'm also going to adopt it, because he did not just remain it in his own story. He brought the story of people like Steve Jobs. He brought people like Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, who would just put on a jean and a dark gray t-shirt. He talked about Albert Einstein, right? Who would just put on a gray suit. He talked about Steve Jobs, who would just wear a jean and a black turtleneck and all of that. So it shows that these people are really simple. And this story goes for a lot of people who are really successful in, success. When you talk about success, right, it goes with a lot of them. And I've heard Aliko Dangote have a discussion about the fact that, oh, he does not use these luxurious things, though. Like, he does not really fancy these luxurious things. And I was with a senior public officer who was also saying, he was advising, I was saying that you need to push competence, you need to push, building yourself, you need to push building your business. The fact that you see a big man putting on a wristwatch does not mean he's even the one that got it for himself. A lot of them are gifts, because he's not going to get it for himself in the real sense. So, but today, you see a lot of us who are still in our mid-professional life, or probably people are even at the down, like at the lower part of the pyramid. They're competing with CEOs. Oh, I want to put on Rolex, just like Femi Otedola is putting on Rolex and all of that. And Femi Otedola later told us in the third page of the book that, initially he had the plan that he was going to have 365 wristwatches, because he fancy wristwatches a lot. But at the end of the day, he made, and I quote, he said that looking back, it was all so unnecessary. It was also, in fact, he said that when phones came, he saw no need for him to put on wristwatch, because he knew that should be this watch, right? What I want to check from this watch is already on my phone. So you do not need to live a luxury, like, unnecessarily luxury life. I think that's one big point I also took from it. Then he started to tell us the importance of simplicity, the importance of, minimalism. And the first thing he mentioned, that it teaches you discipline. Right, he said that it teaches you, it trained him. He said one thing that stood out is that simplicity trained him to become very, very disciplined. He deliberately avoided, flashy trends, and he focused more on neatness. He focused more on consistency. He focused more on purpose, right? And, the question that comes to our mind is, well, we would say that, do we really think that the society rewards simplicity or complexity more, right? But for me, I say that simplicity helps you personally to be focused. It helps you to be disciplined. You would not be, the time that you're supposed to spend on being focused, on pushing through your business, on pushing through your professional development, on pushing through capacity building. Okay, you'd spend that time, if you are not disciplined, if you are not simple, you spend it on looking at, oh, how do I, get a designer? What kind of, shoe would go with this kind of cloth, would go with this kind of hair, would go with this kind of, eyeglasses and all. You'd spend a lot of time on that. So being simple, it gives you that level of, and he mentioned something very, very important there. He said that when he started to, become simple, he did not have to think before knowing what to wear, because he knows that this is how he wants to show up. He wants to come up in whites, right? And those white is going to come up clean. In fact, there was a point in time that he had just two of it. He had two of it, meaning if he's putting on one, is the other one is being cleaned for the other time that he's going to use it. So it means that it gave him little time to make decisions. So it makes decision more faster. So minimalism, it helps you to it teaches you discipline, and it helps you to avoid decision fatigue. And under this, I've talked about the wristwatch, and he made mention of something also very important, that you should, when we are talking about simplicity and all, you should also note that you tune your style to the environment, the cultural background. When we are talking about simplicity, it doesn't really mean that, oh, when you are going outside your sphere, right? Have the concept in your mind, have the principle in your mind. Regardless of what you are going to be showing up with, that principle still holds. That's what people would use in recognizing you. However, when you are going outside your cultural space, it means that, oh, and he made mention of when he's going to London, he would not put on his buba and shogoto while he's going to London, because he's going to show up, he's going to look awkward. while he's in London. However, whatever he's going to be showing up with, he shows up in the same principle that he had with his Buba and Shokoto. So that is very, very essential for us to also hold. Then the second lesson he mentioned when he was talking about minimalism and talking about simplicity, he had left the part of dresses, he had left the part of luxury. And before I move to that second point, I would also want to make some little more emphasis on that part of dresses and all of that. So I think one big lesson that we I personally took out of it is the fact that a lot of us, right, we spend time on things that are really not productive. Many people are busy. We are just busy, but we are not productive, right? So we need to challenge our thoughts. We need to know that, oh, am I living my life to impress people? Am I living my life? And this happens a lot. I've seen a practical situation, even it had happened to me before, whereby you would go in and you're dressed, you look nice, bro. Like, you look nice the way you're dressed. You just go outside just because you see that two, three people had worn this kind of style of dress. Then you want to go back to quickly go and change it back. Who tells you that what you are in or what you are on is wrong? So you just need to understand what drives you. You do not live your life to impress people. You do not live your life to just follow people blindly. And that's why there is a popular saying that says that you should not be just like a zombie. You should not be just follow person that would say, I'm with the people. If the people do good, I'll do good. If they do bad, I'll do bad. But you hold upon yourself. Hold upon yourself. If the people do good, you do good too. But if they do bad, you do not need to follow their bad. Know what works for you. And that is very, very essential. Then quickly moving to the second part that Femi noted is you spend time only with those you appreciate, right? And this part is also very, 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 very important, right? He mentioned two things from it. Number one, he said that he personally he does not have too many friends, right? And he said that fake friendship is a burden. Look at those two powerful words. Today there are some people, they feel connected, but in the real sense they are lonely, because the whole of the friendship is just based on material gains. It's just based on, they are just connected. They are really, really not friends. So Otedola is telling us that you spend time only with those you appreciate, people who would add value to you, people who you truly know them, you know their character, you know their value. And he said something that lots of times, you probably should even, hold on to your old friends, because these are people that you have grown up together, you have learned to appreciate one another, you have learned to respect each other's spaces, the differences, between you and them, how, the characteristics of each person. So he said that most times, from his own observation, he has seen that you should even probably look deeply into that, and you would see that your old friends, gives you that much more value than putting up new friends. And he also mentioned the fact that a number of times you've seen, there are friends who have disappointed him in little ways, in big ways, whether in business or in other matter. And in the real sense, in our world today, one of those things that is very scarce is loyalty, right? Some people are greedy, but you should spend your time with people who you really value, people who you appreciate. You have mutual, ideology, you have mutual thinking, you have mutual, your thoughts, they align with one another. So you should not be someone who is, a very growth someone who has growth mindset, and your circle of friends are people who are just, they are okay with just an average. They just want to be there, and that's all. They do not want to do beyond average. No, you should have people who would push you to success, and you also assist them. It should be collaborative. That's the second importance of simplicity. So you don't need to pack a lot of friends. You don't need to pack a lot of friends. Some people get validation from Facebook friends. Some people get validation from, oh, this is the number of people that are following me on TikTok. Some people get validation from, oh, this is the number of this is the number of Instagram likes I have on this post. That's not what should really matter to you. What should really matter to you is the quality of the people that you have, not the population or the quantity of the people that you have. Then number three, is tone down your social activities. Your social activities, you need to tone it down. And Otedola is telling us that a lot of time he sees a lot of, letters on his table talking about events and all of that. But he would not, right? He would not attend to them. He only attended, he attends to special events that they are very very important for him to attend. So you need to tone down your social activities. At the end of the day, what is most important for you is be there for your family, right? Try as much as possible to be there for your family. They're one of the most important people. Be there for those people who contribute to your professional growth. Be there for your business, people in your business circle. And he mentioned that also, that there was a point in time that he wasn't available for social events for 6 years, and the only set of people that he was accessible to are people who have something to do with his business, either people he was allocating diesel to at Xenon, or people who are bankers who would loan him, or people who are linked to his supply and demand chain. So we need to also try as much as possible to look into this. It's not every party you must attend. In fact, some people will just say, oh, Mugbomo branch. They just hear that there is a party somewhere and they branch it. So you need to tone down your social activities. That's one of those things that help you to have your growth and expansion mentality. Then the second to the last is simplifying would allow you to delegate. When you simplify your life, it allows you to delegate. One of the issues that a lot of leaders have today is that they cannot delegate. They don't know how to delegate. They want to do every single thing on their own. They want to micromanage, and that is not too good. So Otedola said he made mention of a point here, and he said that one of the things he was able to do very well was the fact that anything he sees that he can entrust to others, he would not spend his own time doing it. If he knows that someone else can do this, he would rather give the person than spending his own time to do it. And a lot of time, a lot of people, at the end of the day, you'd realize that those people would even have, more quality. They could even do it probably better than you would do, and you're also building their capacity. So because of time, I quickly go to the last point. Simplifying would help you free up your time for what excites you. When you simplify, your life, when your life is so simple, your heart is free. You spend your time on only things that are very essential, only things that are important for you. You would not rather spend your time on things that will just clutter your life. Like, you just clutter your life, it makes you just busy. And that's why I made mention earlier that a lot of people, and that's what I'm going to be using to round it up, a lot of people, they are just busy, right? They are just busy, but in the real sense, they are not productive. They're just connected. They're just connected with people. You just see them there and they are friends, but they are lonely because the people are not quality people. A lot of people are just visible. They're just visible, showing up everywhere, but in the real sense, they are not valuable. So the challenge to us is that we need to try as much as possible, to simplify our routines, and these are our takeaways. Simplify our routine, reduce unnecessary distraction, protect your mental space. Because the rate at which people are getting mad today, the rate at which people are going into depression, just because you see somebody who is using this kind of phone and have not gotten this kind of phone, it starts, to have depression and all of that. Then you delegate where necessary, you prioritize peace and productivity, and you spend more time on what is important to your life. Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate every one of us for listening, and I pray that the lessons from this, we are able to utilize it to make our lives better, and to reach the top as we move into the section 3 of this book. Thank you very much, and have a nice time.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Hamzat, for that. I mean, it's been an interesting review session. I mean, I can see all the thumbs up and claps and everyone, all the emojis people are, I mean, dropping, because you literally unpacked this interesting lesson. So much to learn from it. I mean, um, you said it all, like, um, just to, I mean, while we wait for people, anyone that would like to, I mean, contribute could do so by raising up their hands. I mean, this book just literally told us why he wears what he wears, why he wears white, why it comes out simple. He doesn't even wear a watch. It's someone that is a billionaire, right? And we are just, I mean, trying to navigate life. We stop ourselves over things that really and truly are not so important. They're not important, let me put it that way. So that as he also said in this, chapter with Ambassador Hamza has even um, help to unpack for us by saying that when you try to come out neat and simple, you you focus on other important and productive things. And that's why he made up his mind. Even though he had so much money, right? He could afford to buy as much luxury as he wanted, but he decided to show up differently, so that it's easier for him to do his normal, focus on his business and other important things, and not just looks that to him were not so important. Not like it was not important to look good, but just make sure your appearance is good enough, and good enough, and focus on most important things. Some of us, not I will not say some of us on this group, but generally we Nigerians, we tend to focus on what people would say. How do I want to wear, I want to any phone that comes out, for example, I want to get this latest phone. I want to some of that's why I even started the examples of Steve Jobs and other people that always showed up very simple, how they just wear t-shirt and trousers. I mean, that just shows how it is important that the way you show up, right, is the way you be addressed, and that's one thing that also Ambassador Hamza also highlighted, and also that part of being able to it will also help you to free up space in your life for you to focus on important things. Also, the fact that he even mentioned, Tola mentioned that he doesn't even have so many friends. He has only friends very few friends, that he can, that are loyal to him, and he's also, they're loyal to him, and he himself is loyal to them. And he also said that some of his friends that he has are people that he has known for many years, right? And one other key thing that you also mentioned is that once when you make your life in quotes very simple, you'll be able to focus on some other important things apart from maybe your business, your career, your family, which is very important, and right to everyone. So this lesson has been very interesting. Thank you so much, Ambassador Hamza, for unpacking this lesson for us today. I think it's 8:01 on the dot. Not sure I can see any answer, but it's a good time for us to wrap up the day. Thank you so much, everyone that has joined us today. Please follow us on all of our social media handles. Also, if you'd like to review any of these interesting lessons with us, next we'll be going to section 3 next week or upper week. Please feel free to reach out to any of the admins that you would like to, review any of the lessons with us. We'll be happy to allow you to have you to review, to be our reviewer. I think that'll be all from us. Let's do enjoy the rest of our weekend, and see you same time next week. Next week Saturday. I think next week Saturday is our games night. Not too sure, or upper weekend.
Yes,
So
next week is
we'll
our game
come.
night.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, and do enjoy the rest. Thank you, Kazunya. Thank you so much, everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.